What's up everybody? In today's video, we are going to go over something that I get asked quite frequently, which is how do I handle follow-ups when appointment setting? Naturally, you're going to get ghosted, and not just on Tinder, but also in business, and we're going to talk about what do you do? How do you follow up with people? How frequently without being needy? And how do you get to sale? What do you say? So in this video, we're going to do a pretty in-depth overview of how I do appointment setting based on my 7 years of running agencies. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, we're here on my screen now, and I wanted to include this very high quality meme, just dropping you a line to see how not texting back is going, because it's simply stuff like this that I see when I look at people's appointment setting and they wonder why they aren't getting somebody to respond. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some truths of appointment setting, particularly in the follow-ups. We're talking about here, you've talked to somebody, they've disappeared, what do you do? So first thing is that getting ghosted sucks. It's not fun, but it's something you're going to need to get used to because it's going to happen very frequently. In fact, most of the times you get ghosted, you are not going to recover a prospect. There isn't some magical sequence where you're going to get 75% of people who are ignoring you to then respond. However, we need to look at this in a percentage-wise way. If you get 10%, 15%, 20% of your conversations to then re-engage and then to go close business, that is going to be extremely profitable over the course of months, 6 months, years. So it is very important we do this. We just want to understand that it's not going to be every single person we're getting to re-engage. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over how I manage this. So let's get into it. Now, a few more things before we get into the actual timeline and messaging. The core idea here is to stay top of mind. People get busy, plans change, they hire somebody else, they test a different method of marketing that's different to yours or a different service. Maybe they're just having a really bad week. So the goal here isn't to assume that, they're just, don't make crazy assumptions. You really don't know what's going on with somebody. And we just want to stay top of mind. We want them to remember that we're the cold email guy, or we're the SEO guy, or we're the video editing guy. And we want to keep that top of mind frequency. So next time they think about that, they know us and they get our messages and they see that we are confident, capable, able, and have a lot of social proof. Now, there's a fine line between being professionally persistent and being a simp, my lovely language. And I'm going to show you the first, because I get tons of examples. People come to me and it's like, hey, just following up, how are you, just following up. And all that says is I'm really desperate, I need business, and I'm not creative enough to say something that's interesting, articulate, or show social proof. And if you're looking to get that person to spend thousands of dollars with you, that's not going to help. So let's go ahead and get into this. Here is the timeline that I follow. We're going to go all the way from initially, if someone ghosts you, all the way down to 100 days later, and then some other touch points and notes. So how do I have this timeline and how do I know what to say? I've been doing agencies for over 7 years. I've generated over 7 figures in revenue from agencies, most of that being from outbound. And I also work with a lot of companies where I help them with their prospecting. So I've just done this a lot. I've done a lot of testing. I've gotten rejected a lot. And hopefully this can speed you up. So let's start with where a prospect ghosts you. So this is going to be where a prospect initially stops responding. They said they were interested, you had some back and forth, and then they have stopped. Now, before I send my first follow-up, I like to wait 3 days. I feel like 3 days is enough time where you're still top of mind, but it's not long enough away where they've completely forgotten who you are. Now, what I normally do here is suggest a time to meet. So I'm assuming at this point that they're just busy, they missed the message, maybe they left their emails a draft. So I like to say something like, hey, first name, what about Thursday to talk more about this? If so, how is 8 p.m.? Now, this is just a very generic message. I try to add a bit more personalization and context. For example, if I'm selling cold email, I might say, hey, first name, would Thursday work to talk more about using cold email to get meetings with SaaS companies? If so, how's 8 p.m.? Have a few ideas based on my work of XYZ that I believe you'll really appreciate. So these aren't the exact templates. You need to add in your own office, your own social offer, your own social proof, and more. But we're just going over the core idea. Now, after that, if they haven't answered me for 5 days, so 5 days after the last message, I then ask the prospect to suggest a time to meet with me, putting the ball in their court a little bit. Hey, first name, know you're busy. Would it be easier if you suggest sometimes? Making it as easy for them as possible. We don't want to be the guy with a big ego who's just always shoving his calendar link down someone's throat. we want to give them an opportunity. Do you have a calendar link I could book on? Could you share some times that are easy for you? Happy to be flexible. One other consideration is if you're in a time zone, if it's inconvenient, such as myself, I'm in Thailand, you need to suck it up and you need to stay up late or get up early because your prospects shouldn't be bending around your weird schedule. Because I have seen this, for example, of Australian companies I work with where they want their meetings to finish at 6 p.m. AEST. It's like, if you're targeting the United States, that's not going to happen. You need to completely adapt your life around your meeting schedule if you're targeting the US in a weird time zone. So, worth noting there. Now, 10 days after that next message, I will generally ask them if they're still trying to solve the problem that you can assist with. Hey, first name, last time we spoke, you were struggling with this problem. Is this still something you're working with? For example, in cold email, I might say, hey, Michael, last time we were talking, you were having a hard time getting on meetings with Fortune 500 companies. I remember you really want to talk to digital marketing directors. Is this something that you're still working on, or have you already fixed this? So by asking if they actually have the problem, it gives them a really easy option to say, no, we don't have the problem anymore, or yes. So I like that follow-up. It's worked pretty well for me. Now, 20 days after this, and we're getting to a pretty long time since the last contact point, we can kind of assume that we're not top of mind anymore. They don't remember our face, they don't remember our voice, they don't remember the specifics of our offer probably. So what I like to do here is I like to share a case study. Hey, first name, thought you'd appreciate this. We worked with a similar company and did X, Y, and Z results. So let's say that I'm selling cold email to an accounting firm and I just wrapped up a new case study for another accounting firm. I want to send an email sharing that with the details and a few simple bullet points with a direct call to action. Ideally, the case study you're sharing is going to be very similar to the company you're reaching out to. If I'm sharing a case study of let's say a manufacturing company, and I'm sending that to an accounting firm, it's better than nothing, but the connection point's not going to be there as much. Now, 50 days after this, I normally like to share a valuable insight. So maybe there's a new software we're using, or we're using AI for something, or maybe there's a new strategy or tactic. Not necessarily a case study, but just something that would be valuable even for them to implement their own. A new ads idea, a new ad angle, a new way to source podcast guests, whatever it might be. So I normally say something along the lines of, me again, first name, we recently tested a thing, and the results that our clients in a specific industry are getting are insane. To give an example, case study, or short case study, or just an example, even from your own company. The whole idea here is that maybe they didn't resonate with our initial offer, maybe this new thing we're offering is a bit more exciting to them, or they can resonate more with, or just piques enough interest to restart the conversation. Now, 100 days after this, we are getting very far away from our first contact point, and we're not being needy, we're not messaging every day, but we are being professionally persistent. So 100 days. At this point, people probably have no idea who you are. They might have no clue whatsoever, or a very faint clue. It's very unlikely that they're still thinking about you on a daily basis, like they might be 2 or 3 days after they ghosted you. So I like to do a quick recap. Hey, first name, I realize it's been hey, first name, I realize it's been months since the last talk. I think it was last year around November. Anyways, I remember at the time we talked about this, and it didn't seem like you had a need for that anymore. However, I'm curious, it's been a while. Has this changed? Last we spoke, you were looking for help getting meetings with XYZ companies. Is that still a thing now? Or has that become a thing again? So I like to give a little bit of a recap of what we were talking about and see if that's become a problem again. One consideration here is a lot of times people will hire an agency because they're going to interview multiple people. Most people aren't just going to talk to you and pay. They're going to talk to you with 4 or 5 other people. Maybe they hired another one of those agencies, but by the time hundreds of days have gone by, you've been past that 90-day contract window that most companies have, and maybe they fired them or got really bad results, and that gives you an opportunity to hop in and take that business. This happens a lot. So give a quick recap of who you are, what you do, and when you spoke. Now, once I get to 100 days, I keep it at a 100-day interval. So it's every 100 days. Now you can make this window a bit smaller if you have a small pipeline, you want to be more active, maybe every 30 days, but generally speaking, just to keep it manageable, I do every 100 days at this point. And I rotate between 3 things. A case study, same thing as up here, an insight, same as up here, and a recap. Case study, insight, recap. And at this point, it's almost a newsletter. Now we can personalize these, and I would start personalizing the first ones that are 3, 5, 10, 20 days, but at this point, I do a little bit less personalization just because of the time it takes. And over time, you'll have hundreds of people in this sequence where every 100 days or less, depending on you, case study, insight, recap. And that is the sequence I follow. So I hope that helps. A lot of people don't know the frequency or what to say. This is what to say. And the more time you have, the more personalization effort you should have. The bigger pipeline you have is not that you should put less, but if you only have 10 prospects, you can put a lot more energy into them. Or if you have SDRs, same thing. Now, let's talk about some other messages, touch points, and other notes that are worth noting here. So I like to do holiday messages. For example, for Christmas or for New Year's. Hey, first name, we spoke a few months ago about getting more clients of cold email. I realized at the time it may not have been a good fit. However, with New Year's here, I'm curious if one of your goals is to get more meetings with dentists like we last spoke. If so, we've helped these companies, blah, blah, blah. So attaching a trigger to a holiday can be a really nice way to hop in the inbox again. So really like that. Another thing is days or times that are specific to changes or news items in your industry. So let's say that, I'm just making this up, Shopify removes Klaviyo integration and you can offer MailChimp. That would be a huge news item. You can now target people that were using Klaviyo and you can move them to MailChimp. Or let's say that, I don't know, you were selling Facebook ads and there's a massive change in Facebook ads, a big news item. Maybe that's worth another blast. Or it could also be like something that's legally changed. Like we have a client right now that sells medical devices to businesses, and them needing that medical device is dependent on the laws that are changed every year. So like when that law is changed, that would be a good time to connect that news item to another email. So that doesn't necessarily need to go in the right flow. It just comes up when there's a news item or a change that's relevant. Now, some other touch points that I like to do a LinkedIn touch point. Every person who's responded to my cold emails or Upwork or Instagram DM, Facebook DM, whatever, I like to add them. I don't do a whole sequence there. I just add them to get them in my network and stay top of mind. My message is very simple. Hey, first name, we spoke an email recently, want to connect here as well. That's pretty much it. And then I post content on LinkedIn a few times a month, and LinkedIn has really good reach, and it's great to stay on top of mind in addition to the emails you're sending. Now, also, if relevant, I like to add people on socials, Instagram, Twitter. I don't add them all in a big list. That's a bit weird. But I don't message them all on every platform because that's also odd. But I do like to add people. Again, using context. Would I add dentists on Twitter? Probably not. But would I add coaches? Yeah. And then I do engage with content. I like posts. I'll comment. Sometimes I'll swipe up on stories and engage. Again, just trying to stay top of mind, not needy, not clingy. I'm not swiping up on their stories and saying, respond to my email. Myself, not doing that. I'm just trying to stay top of mind. Now, as a last note here, we talked about some brief templates, but again, if you have the time, and if you don't have the time, maybe consider hiring someone to do this so they have the time. You do want to add personalization and context specific to your conversations with your prospect and try to be as creative as possible. The goal isn't just to check a box and say, hey, I followed up. Because a lot of people will have a CRM and it's like, this is my checklist. My job is to check the boxes. Yes, it is, but your job is really to get paid. And if we're trying to get paid, we need to be creative, we need to be competent, we need to show relevant social proof, we need to show personalization. So this shouldn't be something you skimp out on. These people that have already responded to your prospecting messages are very high value compared to just a random stranger. So we really want to nurture them and give them as much attention as possible. So there we have it. That is appointment setting, what to do when get ghosted. May not work on Tinder, but it does work on email, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Messenger, whatever platform. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe. I post videos on outbound for agencies and B2B companies quite frequently. And if you want one-on-one help from myself and my team, go ahead and book a call down below at growb2b.io. That is my coaching and training program that teaches you how to set up the systems necessary to book a lot of calls. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.